Omega was mocked for wearing mismatched shoes until Alpha King said the moon walked beside her. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's get back to our main character. Sarah Thompson had always been a bit different. She was an Omega, a class of werewolf often overlooked and underestimated. But unlike most Omegas, Sarah was fiercely independent, determined to stand out even in the smallest ways. However, her rebellious nature often made her the target of ridicule, especially in social situations where the eyes of the pack were watching. It was the annual mating ceremony, an event that determined which Omegas would be chosen by Alphas. The atmosphere was electric, filled with excitement and anticipation. But for Sarah, it was another reminder of her place at the bottom of the hierarchy. As she entered the grand hall, she could feel the gazes of the others on her, scrutinizing her every move. The whispers began almost immediately, and Sarah couldn't help but overhear the cruel words. Look at her shoes. Who would choose someone like her? Sarah glanced down at her mismatched shoes, a pair that had been thrown together in haste. One shoe was a delicate silver heel, while the other was a worn-out boot. She had hoped the pair would go unnoticed, but in the pack, every detail was examined under a magnifying glass. The laughter that followed was enough to make Sarah want to disappear, but she held her head high. She wasn't going to let their petty mockery define her. Sarah wasn't the type to cry or beg for mercy, especially not in front of the pack. But the mockery stung. It made her feel smaller than she ever wanted to be. Yet, just as she was about to retreat to a corner and disappear from sight, something unexpected happened. A commanding voice rang out, halting the laughter and drawing every eye in the room. Stop! The voice boomed, and the laughter immediately ceased. Everyone turned to see the Alpha King, Cale Thornridge, striding into the room with an undeniable presence. Tall and imposing, his every step was filled with the kind of authority that made even the bravest wolves hesitate. His silver-gray eyes locked onto Sarah, and in that moment, everything changed. The crowd parted as he walked towards her, his gaze never leaving her face. Sarah's heart raced, but she stood still, unsure of what was happening. Cale reached her side, his towering presence overwhelming her. The moon walks beside her, he declared, his voice deep and steady. She is more than what you see. She is destined for greatness. The words echoed in the hall, leaving a stunned silence in their wake. Sarah's heart skipped a beat. The pack was silent, every wolf hanging on to his every word. For the first time in her life, Sarah felt seen, truly seen, for who she was. Not the Omega they had mocked, but someone powerful, someone worthy. Cale took a step closer, his voice softening, though the strength in it never wavered. No one will ever mock you again. You are my mate, and the world will bow to us both. As Sarah stood in stunned silence, the weight of Cale Thornridge's words sank in. The entire room seemed to hold its breath as the Alpha King's declaration echoed in her ears. The moon walked beside her. She was still trying to process what had just happened, her mind racing to comprehend the sudden shift in her life. For years, she had been nothing more than an invisible Omega, a mere shadow in the grand scheme of pack politics. And now, in one sweeping statement, Cale had turned everything upside down. He had seen her, truly seen her, and claimed her as his mate. She had never imagined this day would come. No one had ever looked at her like that before. No one had ever cared enough to protect her, to value her worth beyond her status as an Omega. And yet here he was, the Alpha King, standing before her, as if he had been waiting for this moment all along. The pack had gone silent, the usual whispers and giggles replaced with an air of stunned reverence. They were watching her now, waiting for her response. Sarah could feel the weight of their eyes, but she was no longer afraid. For the first time, she stood tall, meeting Cale's gaze without hesitation. She had no idea what the future held, but she knew one thing for sure. Her life was about to change forever. Cale's hand reached out, gently taking hers in his. His touch was warm, powerful, and it sent a strange thrill through her, as though their bond was already forming. She looked up at him, her heart pounding in her chest. You don't have to say anything, Kale said softly, his voice reassuring. I know what the moon has planned for us, and I will honor it with everything I have. His words were like a balm to her soul, soothing away the doubts that had plagued her for so long. She had never believed in fate, never thought that destiny could be so kind. But in this moment, she felt it, the undeniable pull between them. It was like the universe itself was weaving their lives together, one thread at a time. The Alpha King, the one who ruled over all, was choosing her. And for once, Sarah felt like she truly belonged. Thank you, she whispered, her voice barely audible as she squeezed his hand. Kale's lips curled into a smile, one that was soft yet full of strength. You don't need to thank me. This is just the beginning of our journey. Together, we will face everything that comes our way. The crowd was still watching them, but Sarah no longer cared. She was no longer the girl in mismatched shoes, the girl who had been overlooked and ridiculed. She was now the Alpha King's mate, and that meant everything. As Kale led her through the crowd, the murmurs faded away, replaced by awe and admiration. She walked beside him, her heart soaring with each step. This was her new reality. And no matter what challenges lay ahead, she knew that with Kale by her side, she would never be alone again. As the days passed after the mating ceremony, Sarah found herself adjusting to a reality she never thought possible. The halls of the castle, once a distant dream, now felt like her home. She walked beside Kale, the Alpha King, and felt the weight of her new position settle in. No longer the girl with mismatched shoes. She was now the mate of the most powerful wolf in the kingdom. The transition was overwhelming, but every moment by his side was filled with a sense of purpose she had never known. Sarah could hardly believe how quickly everything had changed. Just a few days ago, she had been humiliated in front of the entire pack, mocked for her appearance. Now, she was at the heart of the pack, her every move watched with awe and respect. Kale's presence beside her made her feel protected in a way she had never experienced before. His strength was undeniable, and his unwavering support made her believe in herself more than she ever had. How do you feel? Kale asked one evening as they walked through the castle's gardens, the setting sun casting a golden glow over the flowers. Sarah looked up at him, meeting his gaze with a newfound confidence. I feel like I'm finally where I'm meant to be, she replied softly. Kale smiled, a warmth in his eyes that only made Sarah's heart flutter. Good, he said, because together, we will rule this pack. And we will face everything that comes our way, side by side. The bond between them was undeniable. As the days passed, Sarah found herself growing into her role as the mate of the Alpha King. She had always felt like an outsider, someone who didn't quite fit in. But now, with Kale by her side, she felt like she truly belonged. There were challenges, of course. The other pack members had their doubts about Sarah's worth, and many still whispered behind her back. But Kale's protection and love were enough to silence those doubts. Every day, Sarah learned something new about herself and about the pack she was now a part of. She began to understand the responsibilities of being an alpha's mate. It wasn't just about the title. It was about leading with strength, wisdom, and compassion. She was not just Kale's mate. She was his equal, his partner in every way. One evening, as they sat in the grand hall of the castle, Sarah looked around at the pack members gathered for a meeting. The room was filled with leaders and warriors, all waiting for Kale's command. And then, for the first time, she realized that they were not just waiting for him. They were waiting for both of them. We have your back, my Luna, one of the pack leaders said, bowing his head in respect. The words sent a thrill through Sarah. Luna. She was no longer just an Omega. She was the Luna, the heart of the pack. And with Kale by her side, she knew they could face anything together. As the days turned into weeks, Sarah and Kale grew closer. They shared everything, their hopes, their fears, and their dreams for the future. And with each passing day, Sarah knew one thing for sure. She was exactly where she was meant to be, by Kale's side, ruling the pack together, with the moon shining down on them both. As Sarah continued to adapt to her new life beside Kale, the weight of her responsibilities as Luna began to settle in. The castle had become her home, and the once daunting halls now felt like a place of comfort and purpose. She had never imagined that one day she would stand beside an Alpha King, let alone be his mate. But here she was, and every day was a new challenge, a new step toward embracing her new role. Kale had made it clear from the very beginning that their partnership would be based on trust and respect. He did not treat her as a subordinate, but as an equal, a true partner in every sense of the word. Their bond had deepened with each passing day, and Sarah could feel the strength of their connection growing stronger. One evening, as they sat together in the royal garden, Kale turned to her with a thoughtful expression. "Sarah," he began, his voice gentle but firm, "I know this is all new for you, but I want you to know that I believe in you. The pack believes in you, and you are more than capable of leading alongside me." Sarah looked into his eyes, the depth of his belief in her filling her with a warmth she had never felt before. She had always doubted herself, but now, with Kale's unwavering support, she felt like she could conquer anything. "Thank you," she whispered, her heart swelling with gratitude. "I never imagined I could be someone others would look to for guidance." Kale smiled, his eyes softening. "You are already that person. The pack sees your strength, your kindness, your courage. They see everything that I see in you." Sarah's chest tightened with emotion, and she reached out to take his hand. For the first time in her life, she felt truly seen, truly valued. The weight of the pack's expectations still hung heavy, but with Kale by her side, she knew she was ready to rise to the challenge. The days grew busier as Sarah became more involved in the pack's affairs. She attended meetings, spoke with pack members, and began to learn the intricacies of leadership. It was overwhelming at times, but she was determined to prove that she was more than just the maid of the Alpha King. She was the Luna, and she would not let anyone forget it. As Sarah walked through the castle one morning, she overheard a conversation between two pack members. "Did you hear?" one of them whispered. "Luna Sarah is becoming more powerful by the day. She's not just standing beside Alpha Kale anymore. She's starting to take charge." The other nodded in agreement. "She's a force to be reckoned with." Sarah's heart swelled at their words. She had worked hard to earn the respect of the pack, and hearing their praise was the validation she needed. She wasn't just Kale's mate. She was an integral part of the pack's future. That evening, as Sarah and Kale walked through the courtyard, their steps synchronized. She felt a sense of peace settle over her. She had found her place in the world, and it was beside Kale, ruling the pack together. "I'm proud of you," Kale said, his voice low and filled with admiration. Sarah smiled up at him. "I couldn't have done it without you." Kale's hand brushed against hers, and she felt the bond between them strengthen once more. This was her life now, and she was ready for whatever came next. Together, they would lead the pack, face every challenge, and prove that their love and their bond were unbreakable. As the weeks passed, Sarah's role as Luna continued to evolve. She had grown more confident, her presence commanding respect not just from the pack, but from other alphas in the surrounding territories. The once shy Omega, mocked and overlooked, was now a force to be reckoned with. Each day, she felt more at home in her position by Kale's side, and the bond between them deepened with every passing moment. The Alpha King had always been a pillar of strength, but now, Sarah felt she was becoming just as vital to their rule. One evening, after a long day of meetings, Sarah found herself in the castle's library, reading through old texts about the history of their pack. Kale had asked her to study the ancient ways of their people so she could better understand the challenges that lay ahead. As she turned the pages, a sense of duty washed over her. This wasn't just about leading a pack, it was about preserving a legacy. She was now the heart of that legacy. "You've been busy," Kale's voice broke through her thoughts, and Sarah looked up to find him standing in the doorway, his tall frame casting a shadow over the room. "I want to make sure we're ready for whatever comes next," Sarah said, closing the book gently. "The pack needs a strong foundation, and I want to be sure I'm doing my part." Kale walked over to her, a proud smile on his face. "You're doing more than your part," he said, taking a seat next to her. "I've never seen anyone take to their role as you have. You're making a real difference." His words warmed her heart. It hadn't been easy, and there were days when doubt still crept into her mind. But hearing Kale's praise made it all worth it. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice filled with gratitude. Kale reached out, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "You've made me proud, Sarah," he said, his voice sincere. "And I know the pack feels the same way." Over the next few days, Sarah found herself immersed in discussions with various pack leaders, working together to strategize for the future. The pack was thriving under Kale's leadership, but Sarah knew that they needed to continue growing. expanding their influence and ensuring their survival. She was no longer the passive observer she once was. She was now an active participant in every decision, every plan. One afternoon, as Sarah and Kale walked through the garden, the golden sunlight streaming down, she felt a deep sense of fulfillment. "Do you ever wonder how we got here?" Sarah asked, her voice soft. "All of this, it feels like a dream sometimes." Kale looked at her, his expression thoughtful. "I think about it every day," he admitted. "We've both come so far, and I never imagined I'd be standing here with you, ruling by your side." "We've only just begun," Sarah replied with a smile. "There's so much more ahead." Kale nodded, his eyes filled with determination. "And we'll face it all together, side by side." As they walked further into the garden, Sarah realized that this was her life now. No longer just a girl who had been mocked, no longer an Omega who had been overlooked. She was the Luna, and she had everything she had ever dreamed of, and more. With Kale by her side, she knew there was no challenge they couldn't face, no future they couldn't build together. Together, they would continue to lead their pack, growing stronger with each passing day, and nothing could stop them. As Sarah stood beside Kale in the castle's grand hall, she couldn't help but marvel at how much had changed in such a short time. The pack had flourished under their rule, and Sarah had embraced her role as Luna more fully with each passing day. Yet, despite the outward success, a nagging feeling of unease began to settle in her chest. She had always known that leadership came with challenges, but as the weight of responsibility grew heavier, Sarah found herself wondering if she was truly ready for the long road ahead. Kale, ever the observant alpha, had noticed the subtle shift in Sarah's demeanor. One evening, as they walked through the garden, he stopped and turned to face her. "You're quiet tonight," he said, his voice low and full of concern. "Is everything all right?" Sarah hesitated for a moment, unsure of how to express the unease that had been building inside her. She had always prided herself on her ability to remain strong, but lately, the pressure of being Luna had begun to feel overwhelming. I don't know," she admitted, her voice soft. "I thought I was prepared for this, but sometimes it feels like I'm not enough. Like I'm not doing enough for the pack." Kale's expression softened, and he gently cupped her face in his hands. "Sarah, you're doing more than enough. You've grown into your role in ways I could have never imagined. The pack looks to you not just as my mate, but as their leader. They see your strength, your wisdom, your heart. And so do I." His words, though simple, filled her with a warmth that soothed the doubts that had clouded her mind. She had always feared that she would fall short, but Kale's belief in her gave her the confidence to push past her fears. "Thank you," she whispered, feeling a sense of calm wash over her. "I needed to hear that." Kale smiled, his eyes filled with pride. "You're more than enough, Sarah, and I will always be by your side, every step of the way." Over the next few weeks, Sarah continued to settle into her role, and the pack flourished under their combined leadership. But even as they grew stronger, Sarah knew that their journey was far from over. There would always be new challenges, new obstacles to face. Yet, for the first time in her life, she felt truly equipped to face them. She was no longer just an Omega. She was Luna, an equal partner in the leadership of the pack. And with Kale by her side, there was nothing they couldn't overcome. As Sarah walked through the halls of the castle, her steps no longer hesitant but sure, she realized just how far she had come. From the girl with mismatched shoes to the woman who now stood at the helm of a powerful pack, she had found her place in this world. And with Kale's unwavering support, Sarah knew she could face whatever came next. Together, they would continue to lead, to grow, and to prove that their bond was unbreakable. As the seasons shifted, Sarah and Kale continued to lead the pack with strength and unity. The kingdom they governed thrived, and with each passing day, Sarah became more confident in her role as Luna. However, despite their success, Sarah could feel the weight of leadership pressing on her shoulders. She had always been driven by the desire to protect the pack, but lately, doubts crept into her mind. Was she doing enough? Was she truly ready to face the challenges that lay ahead? One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Kale noticed Sarah's pensive expression. They had just finished a meeting with the council, and though everything seemed to be in order, Sarah's quiet demeanor told him something was amiss. "Sarah," he said, his voice gentle yet filled with concern, "what's on your mind?" Sarah looked up at him, her eyes meeting his with a mixture of uncertainty and resolve. "I've been thinking a lot lately," she began, her voice steady but filled with doubt. "I know we've made progress, but sometimes I feel like I'm not doing enough for the pack. I want to ensure that we're on the right path, that I'm not letting anyone down." Kale took a step closer, his gaze softening as he placed a hand on her shoulder. "Sarah, you're doing more than enough. You've been the heart of this pack, guiding them with compassion and wisdom. I've seen how much they look up to you, how much they trust you. That's because you've earned it." His words were a balm to her soul, soothing the self-doubt that had been gnawing at her. "I'm proud of you," he continued, "and I know that together, we can face whatever comes our way. You don't have to carry this burden alone." Sarah smiled, the weight on her shoulders lightening as she realized the truth in Kale's words. She wasn't alone in this. She had him, and she had the pack. Together, they were stronger than any challenge that might come their way. "Thank you," she whispered, her heart swelling with gratitude. "I needed to hear that." The days that followed were filled with moments of growth and reflection. Sarah continued to learn the complexities of leadership, and with each challenge, she found herself becoming more confident in her abilities. Her bond with Kale deepened as they worked together to ensure the pack's prosperity. They had become not just rulers, but partners in every sense of the word. One afternoon, as they stood on the balcony of the castle, watching the sun set over the land they ruled, Sarah took a deep breath, feeling the cool breeze against her skin. "I never imagined I'd be here," she said softly, her voice filled with awe. Kale turned to her, his gaze full of admiration. "I never imagined I'd find someone like you," he replied. "You've proven yourself time and time again, not just to the pack, but to me. I couldn't ask for a better partner, a better Luna." Sarah felt a wave of emotion wash over her heart full as she looked out over the kingdom. She had come so far from the girl who had been mocked for her mismatched shoes. Now, she was the Luna, the heart of the pack, and she knew she was exactly where she was meant to be. With Kale by her side, there was no limit to what they could achieve together. The future was bright, and Sarah was ready to face it, knowing that she was no longer just an Omega. She was a leader, a partner, and a force to be reckoned with. As Sarah stood on the balcony, watching the sun set over the land they ruled, she couldn't help but reflect on how far she had come. The journey had not been easy, and at times, she had doubted herself. But now, she stood beside Kale, her partner in every sense of the word, and she knew that together, they had built something strong. The pack was thriving, and so were they. Their bond had grown deeper with each passing day, and Sarah felt more connected to the kingdom, to Kale, and to herself than ever before. "It's hard to believe how much has changed," Sarah said quietly, her voice filled with wonder. Kale stepped beside her, his presence warm and steady. "I know," he said, his voice low and filled with pride. "But you've earned every bit of it. You've proven yourself, not just to the pack, but to me." Sarah turned to look at him, her heart swelling with emotion. "I never imagined this life for myself," she admitted. "I thought I would always be the girl on the outside, the one who was overlooked and ignored. But now, with you by my side, I feel like I finally belong." Kale took her hand, his grip firm and reassuring. "You've always belonged, Sarah. You just needed to see it for yourself." As the days passed, Sarah found herself more comfortable in her role as Luna. She had always been a protector, but now she was a leader, guiding the pack with strength, wisdom, and compassion. She had learned so much from Kale, and with his support, she was becoming the leader she had always hoped to be. But despite the growth and progress, there were moments of doubt that still crept in. The weight of leadership was heavy, and Sarah sometimes wondered if she was truly ready to face the challenges that lay ahead. One evening, as the moon rose high in the sky, Sarah sat in the garden, deep in thought. The cool night air brushed against her skin, and she closed her eyes, letting the sounds of the night calm her mind. She had always been driven by the desire to protect the pack, but lately, she had been questioning if she was doing enough. "Sarah?" Kale's voice broke through her thoughts, and she opened her eyes to find him standing before her. "Are you okay?" Sarah smiled softly, but there was a hint of vulnerability in her expression. "I've been thinking," she said, her voice filled with uncertainty. "I want to make sure I'm doing everything I can to help the pack, but sometimes I feel like I'm not enough. Like I'm failing them." Kale knelt beside her, his eyes filled with understanding. Sarah, he said gently, you're doing more than enough. The pack believes in you, and so do I. You've proven yourself time and time again, and you'll continue to do so. But you don't have to carry the weight of the world alone. We're in this together. His words, filled with unwavering support, eased the tightness in Sarah's chest. She had always feared that she wasn't enough, that she would fail the pack, but Kale's faith in her gave her the strength to push those fears aside. Thank you, she whispered, her heart lightening. I needed to hear that. Kale smiled, his hand gently brushing her cheek. You're not alone in this, Sarah. I'll always be by your side, guiding you, supporting you. The bond between them had grown even stronger, and in that moment, Sarah knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. As the moon bathed the garden in its soft light, Sarah felt a deep sense of peace settle over her. The road ahead might be uncertain, but with Kale by her side, she knew she was ready to face whatever came next. As Sarah stood beside Kale, watching the stars twinkle in the night sky, she felt a deep sense of contentment settle within her. The path they had walked together, from their first meeting to this moment, had been filled with challenges, but it had also been filled with growth, love, and the unwavering bond between them. She had never imagined that her life could change so drastically, that she could go from being an overlooked Omega to becoming the Luna of such a powerful pack. Yet, here she was, standing tall, no longer the girl who had been mocked, but a leader in her own right. Kale had been there every step of the way, guiding her, believing in her, and supporting her. Together, they had faced trials, overcome obstacles, and built a future that was theirs to shape. We've come so far, Sarah said softly, her voice filled with awe. Kale turned to her, his eyes soft yet filled with a quiet strength. We have, he agreed, his voice steady. And we'll continue to go further, together. There's nothing we can't face as long as we have each other. Sarah smiled, her heart swelling with love for the man standing beside her. She had once feared that she wouldn't be enough, that she wouldn't live up to the expectations placed on her as Luna. But now, she knew she was more than capable. The doubts that had once held her back had been replaced by confidence, and she had Kale to thank for that. I never thought I could be a leader, Sarah admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. But you've shown me what it means to truly lead. Not through fear, but through understanding, compassion, and strength. Kale reached out, gently taking her hand in his. You've always had that strength within you, Sarah, he said. I'm just glad you found it. As they stood together in the quiet of the night, the weight of their responsibilities no longer felt as heavy. They had built something solid, something enduring, and Sarah knew that whatever challenges the future might hold, they would face them together. The pack had already come to respect her as Luna, and with Kale's unwavering support, she knew she was ready to guide them through whatever came next. The stars above shone brightly, a symbol of the future they would build. The bond between Sarah and Kale was stronger than ever, and the pack they ruled was thriving. It wasn't just about power, it was about love, trust, and the unbreakable connection they shared. Sarah had found her place in this world, by Kale's side, and she was ready for whatever lay ahead. Together, they would continue to lead, to grow, and to prove that no matter the challenges, their bond could never be broken.